Hi guys, welcome to Piece of Code and welcome to this video. So in our last design pattern video we discussed about factory design pattern, right? So basically, just to revise, we discussed about the simple factory pattern and the factory method pattern. Both are nearly same but with a different level of abstraction. So but the concept is same. We have a product and we have a factory, right, which will create the product, right? So it's pretty simple. We have a product and we have a factory which creates the product. That's it. And you can use the variation factory method pattern, right, where we have a product which is an interface and we have a concrete product, and then we have a creator or a factory, and there is a concrete factory or a concrete creator, and it's just this factory is responsible for this product. That's it. Now this is about the factory design pattern. But in this particular video we're going to discuss about abstract factory design pattern. So I'm going to create a new page over here and name it as abstract factory DP or design pattern. Now guys, let's imagine the abstract factory design pattern be like factory of factories. So we have a factory, right, which will generate or create, I mean create is a better word, create a product, and then we will have a factory of factory, right, which will create a factory. Now you may have a doubt in your mind, in this way we can create a chain of factories, and that will be unlimited. Yes, you are open to many possibilities. Abstract factory means that you are creating a factory of another factory. So the actual factory will create the product, and your abstract factory, you can say that this particular factory of factory will create the factory object. Now this might seem to be a little bit confusing, so let us tone it down with a very simple example, and you will be able to understand why do we need abstract factory, right? So for example, we have a animal interface, right? We have animal interface. So in animal there are a lot of types of animals, but for the simplicity of this particular lecture, let's consider two types of animal. One is wild animal and another one is domestic animal. You can assume as this can be classes or abstract classes, whatever you want you can assume, that doesn't matter over here. Then comes the wild animal. Under wild animal, what can we have? We can have tiger, we can have lion, right? Under domestic animals we will have dog maybe and cat, right? And all these things have a is a relationship with each other, is a, because yeah, this is an inheritance mechanism, so we'll just write is a over here. Okay, now what we will have over here is we will have a animal factory. This also is an interface, and in this animal factory we will have a wild animal factory, right, and a domestic animal factory. Sorry, I'm just writing it like this because there is no space over here. So wild animal factory and domestic animal factory. Wild animal factory will give you the objects of tiger and lion, and domestic animal factory will give you the objects of dog, cat, and so on and so on, right? Now imagine there might be multiple, as I told you, there are multiple animals types, wild animal, domestic animal, terrestrial animals, and amphibians. Lot of things are there, right? But for now we are considering two, and similarly we'll have factories for all those kinds of animals. Now when this thing happens, there is an increased complexity of how you want to arrange your factories. It will become complicated. You are creating one factory over here in your code and another factory over there, and it will become a mess. There is not a systematic I would say logic of creating your factories, which will in turn create your objects or your products, right? So due to that, we will create another factory which will help you to create these factories, wild animal factories, any object of your animal factory. Basically it will help you to create any object of your animal factory, which will in turn create, your animals. This wild animal factory may create based on some random number, it may give you a tiger or a lion. Similarly, based on some random number, this domestic animal factory will also give you a dog or a cat based on some number or some logic, whatever, because factory design pattern is basically used for this kind of scenarios where you may randomly create, or based on some logic you create some kind of an object at some point of time in your code, right? I hope that is making sense. Right now what we will have is, we will have I would say a factory, I would say, and this factory will be responsible to create objects of wild animal factory, domestic animal factory, basically objects of animal factory. So this particular factory will have a method which will have something signature like this: animal factory get animal factory. So here you will just return an object of animal factory. It can be a wild animal factory, it can be a domestic animal factory. You return them. So this particular factory, it has a animal factory, right? Because it will return you an object of the animal factory, which is can be wild animal factory, can be domestic animal factory, and these factories has a animal so that they will return you the actual product, which is the animal, right? I hope that is making sense, because now what we have done, we have created a level more of an abstraction between the product and between the client, because obviously the client will use this factory, which will give you an animal factory object, and an animal factory object in turn will give you an animal object, right? I hope that is making sense. So this is how abstract factory pattern works, right? I hope that is making sense. Now let us implement this thing in the code so that you will be able to understand what is happening over here. Okay, so let's go on to IntelliJ and let's implement the code. Okay, so let us go into our IntelliJ and let me create a new package over here, and let me name it as abstract factory design pattern. Okay, so let us create the things first. Let us create the product side first. So let us create a new Java class and let us name it as animal, and let's make it as interface, and we have our interface animal over here, right? And let's create a Java class and let us name it as wild animal, right? Let us create a class wild animal, and let us create another class known as um, yeah, domestic animal, right? So this is domestic animal. Now we'll just mark this interfaces. So I'm just gonna say implements animal, and for domestic animal as well we are gonna go and say implements animal. Oh, sorry, right? It's pretty simple. Now let us create two more objects, or four objects I would say. I'll create a Java class, name it as dog, and new Java class cat, and then new Java class tiger, and let us create, you know what, let's not create a lion, let's create a leopard, leopard, whatever, I don't know, my accent may be a little bit weird, but that is fine. So a leopard I think, okay, whatever. So let's go to dog and say extends domestic animal, cat extends domestic animal, tiger extends wild animal, and then leopard extends wild animal. So this part we are done. So this animal, this product part we are done. Now let us create the factory for the product, the factory section. So let us create a new, you know what, I'll create a class over here, maybe another package over here. I don't know, let's keep it like this, it's fine, just for explanation. So I'm gonna create a new interface, and I'm gonna name it as animal factory, right? And it will be interface, and basically what we will do is we will return an object of animal. So I'm just gonna say animal, so animal get animal, right? Okay, now we're gonna create a new class, and we're gonna name it as wild animal factory, and we're gonna create another class and name it as domestic animal factory. Okay, this got weird, but it's fine. So we're gonna say implements animal factory, and it will ask us to implement methods. So let us implement them. We'll actually implement them a little bit later. And wild animal factory also implements animal factory. Okay, we're gonna implement some methods over here, and that is it. Now inside the we're gonna write the logic also right now, so though we don't forget about it. So in the wild animal factory, we will do one thing. We will just say we'll create an object of random equals to new random, right? And we're gonna create a random number between 1 and 10. So I'm gonna say int x equals to random dot next int, and we'll pass 10. As we need from 1 to 10, we'll say plus 1. Now if x is less than 5, right, then we gonna return new this is wild animal, right? So tiger, else return new leopard. I hope I said this right this time. So we're gonna just directly copy all this logic from here, because we will implement the same thing in domestic animal factory, and just paste the logic over here. So we're gonna return an object of, you can make this a little bit more specific actually. Instead of animal, you can return maybe wild animal, right? because it should be specific. And in this particular domestic animal factory, you can just make this as domestic animal, right? Because see, if you are going to be specific, you are creating so many factories, it's better to be a little bit specific so that you allocate the duties to the right particular factory, right? If you're going to make it so much generic, then there is no point of creating so many factories, right? So even if your concept is working, you should make sure that your implementation is also correct, right? So in this case, I'm gonna just return maybe a dog or a cat maybe, and otherwise we're gonna return a dog. Okay, so this logic is great, it is fine, right? And now what we will do is, now we'll start implementing the factory of factories. Cancel. So now what we will do is, we're gonna create another class, we're gonna create a direct class, and I'm just gonna say factory wild animal, sorry, actually animal factory, just to make sense over here, because it's a factory of one factory, I'm just going to name it like this. Okay, now in this particular class, we will have a method which will say public animal factory and get animal factory, and here I'm gonna pass a string factory name, right? And we're gonna say if factory name dot equals ignore case, I'm gonna say maybe wild, I'm gonna return new wild animal factory, else return new what is that, domestic animal factory. And I think that should be it. And you can create a class called client, which will basically call your factory of factories and take the main method. And basically here what you can, so you want for example wild animal, so I'm just going to say wild animal over here, animal equals to, because see, my animal factory, based on a random value, it can give you any particular object, right? So I cannot be specific, right, which wild animal I need. That's why I created it like this, so that you will understand that in a factory type of a design pattern, you will create objects sometimes based on a very speedy logic or some kind, very randomized kind of a logic, right? And I have explained it in a very in-depth manner in my factory design pattern video, but this is abstract factory, so that's what it is. So new animal factory, okay, not new animal factory, and dot get animal factory, and I'm gonna pass in wild, right? We get the animal factory now, then dot get animal. So there is some issue over here. What is it saying? But okay, required type is animal, but provide, okay, required type is wild animal, but we are providing animal, because if I go over inside my animal factory, this is animal, okay, because this is animal, this is a super type over here, and we have a domestic animal, okay, not this, sorry, let's go to the animal factory, wild animal factory, okay, this is fine, this is returning, okay, so we will just downcast it for a bit to a wild animal, because see, in my animal factory, that's an animal over there, and our subclasses are implementing, I mean, in a specific way, but in a sense you are getting an animal, right? So you have to do an explicit downcasting to wild animal, and then this should be fine, right? So yeah, this is how you are going to work with a particular abstract factory design pattern, guys. It's very complicated, because you see, just now I created so many classes and objects. You may have hundreds or 200s of objects, and yeah, that is how it works. If you just understand the concept in an interview also, you will be explain it like this only. Yeah, you can make a little bit mistakes here and there, and you may forget something, but it is fine. Once you get the core concept right, it's easier to just explain over here. Okay, I hope that is making sense. Okay, so that's it for this lecture, guys. We will meet in the next lecture. Till then, have a nice day. Bye bye, take care.